3 years later, I'm confidently strolling through Target with my beautiful baby girl when guess who pops up looking like they've seen a ghost? That's right, the same people who told me my husband deserved better than a broken woman. The look on their faces when they saw me thriving with my daughter was absolutely priceless. And what happened next will blow your mind, and it all centers on one little pink outfit. But to understand how we got to this epic moment of karma, you need to know how this whole mess started. The golden child they never had. Picture this. You're born to parents who had one job, loved their child unconditionally, and they completely botched it because you came out with the wrong equipment between your legs. My parents wanted a son so desperately that they treated my entire existence like some cosmic mistake that needed constant fixing. They never said I was unwanted directly because that would have been too honest for their style, but they made sure I knew every single day that I was the consolation prize in their genetic lottery. My mother had this habit of sighing dramatically whenever she saw families with sons, like she was personally grieving the boy she never got to raise. She would watch fathers teaching their sons to throw footballs or work on cars and get this wistful look that screamed, "That should have been my life." Meanwhile, I'm standing right there thinking maybe I could learn to throw a football too, but apparently that wasn't the point. The point was having the right chromosome combination, which I had failed to deliver from day one. My mom once sighed, "I wonder how life would be if you'd been a boy." After an extra glass of wine, she didn't realize she was confessing her disappointment. Dad wasn't much better with his subtle disappointment. He would light up around other people's sons in ways he never did with me, even when I was doing everything perfectly. I became a straight-A student, played 3 sports, and could probably have solved world hunger if that's what it took to get the same enthusiasm he showed for random neighbor boys who couldn't even tie their shoes properly. But nothing I accomplished seemed to register because I was fundamentally the wrong gender for their dreams. The really twisted part was how they convinced themselves they were good parents because they never outright rejected me. They fed me, clothed me, and showed up to school events. So in their minds, they were winning Parent of the Year awards. They couldn't understand why I seemed so desperate for their approval or why I kept pushing myself to excel at everything. They acted like my constant overachieving was just my natural personality instead of a daughter frantically trying to prove she was worth keeping. I spent my entire childhood and teenage years trying to be the son they wanted while still being stuck in a female body they clearly saw as defective. I became a walking gender Frankenstein, too tomboyish for daughter duties, too girly for son expectations. I played sports they cared about instead of ones I enjoyed. I studied subjects that impressed them instead of following my actual interests. I even learned to hide any traditionally feminine traits because those seemed to remind them of their disappointment. The comedy reached peak levels during family gatherings when relatives would ask about grandchildren and my parents would get this panicked look like they were being asked to solve world hunger. They would glance at me like I was their only hope for continuing the family name, except they had spent years making it clear that I wasn't really the child they wanted in the first place. The mixed messages were absolutely unreal, simultaneously being their only shot at grandkids while also being a constant reminder of their genetic disappointment. What made the whole situation even more ridiculous was how they couldn't see the irony in their behavior. They raised me to be independent, strong, and capable because those were the qualities they associated with the son they never had, but then they seemed surprised when I actually developed those traits. They wanted me to be tough enough to handle their conditional love, but soft enough to not call them out on it. They wanted me to succeed so they could take credit, but not succeed so much that I didn't need their approval anymore. The really messed up part was how I kept coming back for more punishment because they were literally the only family I had. I didn't have close relationships with extended relatives who might have shown me what normal family love looked like. My grandparents lived far away and barely knew me, and there weren't any aunts or uncles stepping in to fill the gaps my parents left. So I accepted their scraps of affection like a starving person accepts stale bread, grateful for anything resembling parental love. I convinced myself that their weird conditions and impossible standards were normal because I had no comparison point. I thought all daughters had to prove their worth to parents who clearly preferred sons. I thought it was standard for children to walk on eggshells around their own family, constantly trying to read the room and adjust their personality to match whatever mood would get them the most approval. I had no idea that some kids just got loved for existing. The pattern was so predictable it was almost funny. I would achieve something impressive, They would give me a brief moment of recognition and then immediately move the goalposts to something even more difficult. It was like playing a video game where the levels kept getting harder, but the rewards kept getting smaller. I was trapped in this endless cycle of trying to earn love that should have been automatic, and I was too young and desperate to realize the game was rigged from the start.